This happened 2 winters ago in northern Michigan. One of those weeks where the snow just doesn't stop. The kind of cold that sticks to your lungs and makes your breath feel sharp. I'd never complain about it publicly, but growing up here, you learn to respect how fast snow isolates you, even when you're technically not far from help. At the time, I was living about an hour from a seasonal cabin that belonged to a friend of mine. He and his wife lived downstate most of the year, but they owned this place on a small, private lake not far from where I'd gone to high school. It was their getaway spot, one of those gray, single-story A-frames with wraparound porches and propane heat. Gorgeous in the summer, dead quiet in the winter. He called me because the storm was rolling in, and he hadn't had a chance to double-check if the motion lights and generator was still working. Their security camera battery had died sometime in November. I had the key, and I wasn't doing much that week anyway. It was supposed to be a 10-minute check, make sure the power worked, kitchen faucet hadn't frozen, doors locked, that sort of thing. He even Venmo'd me gas money. So around 3:30 p.m., I packed a flashlight, some extra layers in case the car got stuck, and headed into the woods. The drive wasn't bad. Snow was thick, but the main roads had been plowed earlier. I passed 2 trucks coming the opposite way, but otherwise it was just silence and snow. Typical up north. By the time I turned onto the narrow lake road, it was already getting dark. The lake was frozen smooth, just a silver blur behind the trees. There weren't any cars near the cabin. I parked across the driveway loop, killed the engine and wipers, and just took a moment to listen. You don't get that kind of quiet in the city. No engines, no wind, just depth. The kind of silence that has air in it. I opened the gate, walked up the short path, and used the spare key to unlock the cabin. My boots left deep prints in the snow. The deck had maybe 1.5 feet on it, untouched since the last storm. No signs of animals, nothing disturbed. The heat kicked on when I triggered the door keypad, so the place hadn't lost power. Everything inside looked normal. Bottles still upright, couch untouched. Tap worked fine. I texted my friend to let him know everything looked good. He sent a thumbs up and a joke about me not dying in the woods. Should have taken that more seriously. I was getting ready to leave when I realized I hadn't checked the breaker panel in the back closet. It's tucked beside the sliding doors that look out over the frozen lake, half covered by blackout curtains. I pulled it open and clicked on the porch light switch to test the bulbs. The porch lit up, and that's when I saw them, footprints, in the snow, on the porch, leading away from the cabin, not toward the path or gate where I had entered, the opposite direction. They trailed along the edge of the deck, turned toward the tree line, and disappeared into the woods behind the property. Normal-sized, boot treads slightly sunk in and already softening from new snow. I hadn't noticed them when I came in. I had no reason to look behind the house. The thing is, there were only footprints leading away, none coming toward the cabin, no loops, no circles, no pattern that made any damn sense. Something in my chest dropped. I opened the sliding door just enough to step out. The snow hadn't drifted over the prints yet, so they were recent. Too recent. I stood on the back porch and scanned the trees. All I could see was darkness pushing through the falling snow. The prints disappeared into the black, downhill slope behind the house. Too far out for my flashlight to catch clearly. But something in me said, they're still out there. I went back inside, locked the sliding door, and turned off the inside light so I could see out. Then I waited, watched the tree line. Every couple minutes, I'd peek through a different window. My boots were still near the door. I hadn't even taken off my jacket yet. And then the porch light flickered. Once, then again, and then it went dark. The breaker hadn't tripped. The whole cabin still had power. Other lights worked fine. That bulb, it had been new when I put it in September. I tried the switch again. Nothing. Bulb was dead. Could have been coincidence, sure. Or someone on the porch. I kept all the lights off after that. Sat on the couch with my flashlight and phone in hand. I pulled up the county weather radar. Snow was falling harder. No alerts, but enough that my tracks were already filling in. I pulled up the local scanner feed. Just static up here. At 60:10, someone tried the main door, turned the handle just once. Slowly, I heard the movement, the faint shift of metal against tension. No knock, no voice, no footsteps across the deck leading up, but it definitely turned. I stood completely still for 30 seconds, then walked to the small laundry room, which had a narrow window near the front edge of the porch. The footprints were back, but different. Newer ones were closer to the house, 3 steps closer. Still no second trail coming to the porch. Still only in one direction, away. I didn't have a weapon, not unless you count a fireplace poker. I found the carbon monoxide detector and pressed the test button so it would make some kind of alarm. Let whoever was out there know I was awake, aware, and inside. The alarm buzzer screeched through the cabin. I waited, watched. Nothing moved. But I didn't feel alone. I stepped into the bathroom and shut the door. Stayed there with the flashlight off for 15 minutes just listening. No banging, no yelling, no broken windows. Just the creaks of cold air settling into wood. When I opened the door and looked down the hallway, the breaker closet door was fully open. I hadn't left it that way. I grabbed my keys, kept the flashlight ready, and ran out the front door, slamming it behind me. The snow was deeper. My original boot prints were faded, and now there were others circling the cabin, only going in one direction, around, clockwise. Like someone walked laps around the entire place while I was inside. I didn't stop. I ran through the gate, across the drive, yanked the car door open and locked it behind me. The headlights cut the snow ahead, weak as fog lights in a blizzard. The rest of the drive was a blur. I didn't fully breathe until I was back on a salted, busy road. My friend got the cabin checked the next week. Nothing broken, nothing stolen, just some strange marks on the rear window, and the bulb from the porch fixture was found unscrewed, still intact, wedged under the railing. They put in cameras, wired, not battery this time, no footage since. But every now and then, a motion light trips behind the cabin at 3 or 4 a.m., and there are still never any prints showing someone walking in, only away. I've been working in nursing for 10 years, almost always on night shift. I've gotten used to the silence, to watching people sleep, to the way the body reacts differently in the early hours. You learn to operate in the eerie calm before sunrise. Still, I've never gotten used to winter nights. I work out of a mid-sized hospital in rural Pennsylvania. Our shifts end around 6:45 a.m., and most days I stay a little later to finish notes, grab coffee, or just let traffic clear. But on this particular morning, early January last year, I left right on time. It had snowed all night. That heavy, dense kind of snow that muffles everything. The roads had been plowed, thankfully, but barely anyone was out. It was too early, too cold, and still actively snowing. There's a rest stop halfway between the hospital and the turn that leads to my neighborhood. It's not big, just one single lot pull-off with a bathroom building, some vending machines, and maybe 6 angled parking spots. No gas, no overnight lights. Basically just a place to stretch before the next climb uphill. Normally I don't stop, but that morning for some reason I did. I told myself it was to stretch, but I think I just needed a break from the feeling I'd been carrying since the shift started. That quiet thing in your chest that tells you something's off even when everything's fine. Pulling in, I saw one other car already there. It was parked in the far left corner, hood facing out, a beige sedan. Headlights on, engine running, no snow on the windshield, which meant it hadn't been sitting there long. I figured it was another nurse or a truck driver pulling off for coffee. I eased into the opposite corner, turned off my engine, left the door cracked for some air. The sky still hadn't changed color yet, almost black, fading into that bruised purple you get before dawn. It was 23 GF, just quiet enough for the snow to matter. I glanced over at the other car, still running, lights on, no movement. The windows were fogged slightly, not iced, just the kind of interior condensation that builds when someone's breathing inside. But it didn't look like anyone was moving. I sat for another minute, then got out to head toward the vending machines. I could hear my boots crunch soft in the snow. The air was so dry it stung a little with each inhale. Normal. Still, my pace slowed as I passed the car. From the corner of my eye, I expected to see someone, maybe sitting back, maybe on their phone. But I didn't. Just the vague silhouette of the driver's seat, and something about the smell hit me as I walked past. Sweet and sour. Like rotting fruit baked into plastic. I only caught it faintly. Not something you expect from a running car. I didn't stop walking though. I kept heading to the vending machines. Tried not to admit that I wanted to get back to my car faster than I thought I would. I reached the building. The vending lights were on, but most slots were empty. The coffee machine flickered. Out of order. Like always. I didn't need anything. I just stood there staring, trying to shake the static in my chest. 10 feet behind me, that other car was still running. Same hum, same lights. No doors opening. Nothing. Until they suddenly shut off. No warning, no dimming. Just instant silence. No first key click. No engine rattle. 1 second on, the next, completely off. And not just the engine, headlights, radio, everything. It was now a dark car, parked, engine cold, in a snowy lot long before sunrise. I turned slowly. The figure in the driver's seat was still there. Except now, with the power off, I realized. The interior windows weren't fogged anymore. They were clear. There was no one inside. No handprint on the glass. No outline of warm air releasing. A car does not clear fog on its own in freezing temperatures. If anything, it should have frosted more. But the windows looked wiped dry, like someone had taken a towel to the inside of the windshield. I froze there. Did someone get out while I was looking away? Doubtful. You can't open a car door in snow without sound, especially not in a space that quiet. Not unless they timed it with something, my footsteps, or the vending hum, or wind. Except there had been no wind. I walked back to my car, not hurried, but not slow. I didn't look too long at the sedan. I just got in, locked the doors, and restarted the engine. The heat kicked back on. My headlights lit up the trees ahead. I pulled out. As I curved past the rest stop entrance, I glanced one last time in the mirror. The other car had moved. It was no longer in the same space. It was now parked about 3 feet back and directly behind where mine had been. I made the last stretch of the drive home faster than I should have, but I stayed in my lane. Every corner I turned, I watched for headlights in the mirror. Nothing followed. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car listening for a while. Then I got out and did a walk around. Not because I thought I was being dramatic, because something deep inside me told me I needed to be certain. There were no marks on the bumper, no scratches, no gaps in the snow on the back window. But I noticed 2 faint marks where my side mirrors had been gently adjusted outward. I called the local sheriff's department that afternoon, told them about the car, gave a general rest stop location. They said they'd send someone to check. I never got a call back. Maybe they just told me that to get me off the line. Maybe they did go check and there was nothing there. Or worse, the car was there, but empty, the snow undisturbed, the battery stone dead, and the engine ice cold with no signs of it running at all. Since then, I've passed that rest stop maybe 24 times. I've never pulled in since. But about a week after it happened, I was driving by slowly after another long shift. I glanced toward the lot. There was a car there, beige, older model, headlights on, no driver, engine running, just sitting waiting. I work for the local electric utility in a small Appalachian town. Line inspections, field repairs, outages. Real blue-collar stuff. It's not glamorous, but I like the routine. Most of our jobs are scheduled weeks out, but when there's a storm, everything goes on hold and we move into full emergency dispatch. This happened last January after the worst ice storm we'd had in a decade. Pine trees snapped under the weight. Power lines down all over the county. Whole sections of woods looked like they'd been flattened by artillery. It was the 3rd night without sleep. Crews were scattered. Roads half blocked. Every house call took twice as long. Most of our guys had been sent in pairs, but by that point they were just trying to throw warm bodies at outage zones. Around 5 p.m., near sundown, I was flagged to respond to a report of a downed power line in a rural area north of town, just past Hollow Creek. Closest neighbor was 5 miles out. It was an old farmhouse that hadn't been inhabited for a couple years, but every winter someone called it in. Apparently, the line sagging off the pole connected power to an old barn behind the house. Not ideal to go alone, but it wasn't high voltage and I was close, so I took the call. It took me 40 minutes to get there with the detours. By the time I turned off the main road onto the frozen gravel path, it was full dark, no moon, forest all around. My breath fogged up the inside of the windshield, which meant it was dropping below 15 BF. Still snowing, light but steady. The farmhouse sat at the end of an overgrown drive. White 2 stories, porch starting to lean. Barn set back behind a tree line. No lights on anywhere. My truck headlights hit the front of the house dead on. Completely still. No tire tracks other than mine. I pulled in slowly. Radio to central dispatch that I was on location. Static crackled back. Bad signal up here. I tried again. No response. Not unusual. Cell service had been on and off since I'd left the paved road. Anyway, I parked so the truck would light up both the house and the side of the tree line near the pole. I got out, gear bag over my shoulder, boots breaking through the crust of the untouched snow. The place gave off that strange, half-abandoned energy a lot of rural properties have out here. Not haunted, just forgotten. Like it had sunk into the hillside and was trying not to be noticed. The line off the pole dipped lower than usual, snow weight, but it wasn't severed. From what I could see, the issue was probably tension at the crossarm or a loose bracket. I needed to check the anchor point on the roof. I made my way up the icy porch steps and circled to the right side. I kept my light low, scanning the eaves. Gutter mostly clean, a few icicles. Then I stopped. There were tracks in the snow. On the roof, not animal prints, definitely boots. 2 separate sets. They ran across the flat portion of the first roof level and out of sight behind the chimney. I stood there and looked around. There was no ladder, nothing propped to climb up. No visible handholds. No broken areas where someone might have jumped from the porch or balcony above. And the tracks were fresh. No frost in the print edges. The thing that threw me most, there were only prints going, not coming back. I walked back out to the truck and circled it. Still alone. No headlights anywhere. Still no radio signal. I opened the utility toolbox and grabbed a folding ladder. I had to know if someone had gotten up there. And more importantly, whether they were still up there. The roof creaked as I climbed. I kept my hand on the flashlight, scanning along the path of footprints. Up close, the details were clearer. Standard boots. Not winter rated. Soles were narrow. Adult size, no drag marks. No signs of struggle. Like someone walked carefully just along the edge of the roofline and stopped by the chimney. And then what? I followed the prints past the vent pipe, icy shingles crunching underfoot. Just as I passed the peak of the roof, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. Down near the barn, maybe 30 yards behind the house, one of the doors had swung slightly open. I stared at it, waited. It moved again, gently. No wind. Snow was still falling straight down. I raised the flashlight and clicked it to full beam. The barn door was open about 8 inches. Just wide enough to see total darkness inside. I backed up slowly, staying low on the roof in case anything shifted. When I turned to go back to the ladder, something caught my boot. I looked down. A length of wire, old coaxial, looped behind the chimney and tangled near the footing. It hadn't been there when I climbed up. I was sure of it. I stepped over it and made my way back to the side, holding the flashlight like a weapon now. When I reached the ladder, it was gone. No sound, no movement. Just missing. Gone. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I was going to puke. I scanned the ground. The snow near the house was still clean, no new footprints, no drag marks. Just my own trail. Leading here and the roof prints. Now there were 3 sets. I didn't move for a long time. I told myself I was overtired, seeing double, miscounting under pressure. But deep down there was zero doubt. I was on the roof, alone, and now I wasn't. I crouched, brushed snow off my gloves, and pulled out my flare. I carry one in every jacket for exactly this kind of emergency. I popped it. Brilliant orange smoke hissed into the cold as I waved it in slow circles for visibility. No movement below. But now the barn door was fully open. I saw no one. But the light of the flare caught a glint inside, the back of a car mirror, I think. That barn wasn't listed on the inspection report. No services, no cables routed inside according to the map. I was shaking. My radio still didn't work. I tried anyway. Unit 1205, active at Hollow Creek location, requesting backup. Just static, no voice. I repeated it twice, then kept the radio close regardless. And then I heard a cough, not below, from behind the chimney. Low, draw close. Could have been an animal, could have been something stuck. But I had not seen anyone, on that roof 10 minutes before. I didn't wait to find out. I shimmied down the gutter as best I could, boots slipping off the edge, landing hard in the crust of snow below. My knees buckled. I stood up fast, sprinted to the truck, threw the bag in, hit the headlights. They flared just long enough to catch someone, for a single second, stepping back into the barn's shadows. Then they were gone again. Didn't catch the face, just a shape. No coat, bare forearms. In this weather, that's what still keeps me up. Nothing human should have been standing in that shit. I made it back down to County Road 8 by 7:20 p.m., caught a signal near the ridge and called it in. By the time a team got there, the prints had filled somewhat. The barn door was open, but empty. Nothing but a few old chairs, rusted parts, no vehicle, no stairs to the roof, no ladder. Still don't know how they got up there. And more importantly, why they were waiting. We flagged the property, sealed it with a lock. But 2 weeks later, a new downed line was reported. Same area, same property. This time, no one volunteered to go, not even me.